Times Square is frozen in time. No honking horns on the Brooklyn Bridge. Not one pedestrian in front of Rockefeller Center. The city that never sleeps has fallen silent. But there's another world beneath the pavement that's still wide awake.
There are 36 subway lines crisscrossing New York City's 5 boroughs. If you laid all of the tracks end to end, they would stretch from New York all the way to Chicago.
Some of the subway lines are automated, run from a massive Manhattan control room. But the rest of the system is well over 100 years old. In the time of people, it was run by nearly 300 operators, pulling a series of levers to change the signals and trigger track switches.
Keeping the subway system running is an enormous job. The Metropolitan Transit Authority employs 70,000 people to make it all work. That's like the entire population of Flagstaff, Arizona.
Now, there's no one watching the traffic, no hands on the handles, and no one driving the trains.
Without operators, some trains could accelerate to a point where the automatic brakes wouldn't have enough time to stop a train. And that's 400 tons of metal moving at up to 60 miles per hour.
The part of the system that isn't automated is still run essentially the way it was a century ago. Some of the wiring is so old that it's still covered in cloth instead of rubber. And with nobody pulling the levers, some subway cars would end up on the wrong tracks, with other cars coming right at them.
First few cars would crumple like soda cans. And that sets off this chain reaction called telescoping, where each car kind of slides into the one in front of it, and they all collapse down almost like a telescope.
You'd have other cars that would just fly off the tracks, maybe smash into a tunnel wall, or even crash into other trains on parallel tracks. They would almost certainly damage the third rail that powers all the trains. So you'd have sparks, you'd have fires, maybe even explosions.
Trains carom into walls like battering rams, sending fissures through walls and ceilings like spider webs and shockwaves through the pavement above. Now, with no one left to protect it, the system faces its oldest, most relentless enemy, water.
The New York City subway system is old. It was opened in October of 1904. By 1908, tunnels were being built under the East River to connect Brooklyn to Manhattan.
There are now 4 tunnels that run under the East River alone, and it's estimated that there's almost 60% of the entire subway system under the water table, which means that flooding is a constant threat.
Leaks are so common that crews go out every night looking for them. And on average, they find 30 leaks every single week.
After people, there are no workers to check for leaks, no one to sound the alarm when tunnels flood. The only thing that stands guard over the subway now is a network of antiquated pumps mankind left behind.
There are approximately 280 pump rooms vigorously pumping out about 14 million gallons of water on a daily basis. That's about 28 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water every day.
Most of them have what's called a float switch. It's kind of like the one that sits in your toilet tank. It's this buoyant ball that sits on top of the water, and once it gets high enough, it automatically turns on all the pumps.
But some of the pumps are almost 100 years old, and they need constant maintenance.
One by one, the ancient pumps begin to fail. Water seeps into tunnels already fractured by runaway subway cars and begins to gnaw at the city's foundations. But in another part of the underground world beneath the city, there's an invisible danger growing day by day, a vast and twisted system of superheated steam.
Beneath the sidewalks of New York City lies one of the most extensive systems of pressurized steam tunnels in the world.
There are over 100 miles of pipe delivering steam that's used to heat buildings, power laundromats, sterilize hospital equipment, and much more.
The pressure of the steam in the pipes underneath New York City is up to 150 pounds per square inch. If a valve sticks or a seal degrades or groundwater seeps in, you don't just get a leak, you get an eruption.
In 2007, a steam explosion in Midtown left a crater that was 40 feet wide and 15 feet deep.
In the time of people, remote monitoring systems track the built-up pressure inside the pipes. Now, the pressure is rising unchecked. How long before they erupt, breaching the asphalt that divides the city above from the underworld below? Finally, without repair or maintenance, a section of pipe explodes.
It would send a geyser of steam 40 stories high and go off with a force of 50 pounds of dynamite.
Steam superheated to 350 degrees would shoot up as high as a Ferris wheel. The metal grates nearby would curl like ribbons, and the ground would turn into a sludge.
The damage around the explosion would be bad, but there would be even more damage that you wouldn't see at first. The sudden pressure drop would cause other sections of the pipe to overheat and rupture.
Now you have steam leaking underground all across the city, like termites slowly eating away at the foundation of a wooden building.
All across New York, geysers of steam tear holes in the city's concrete flesh. The wounds on the surface are deep, but inside the flooded subway tunnels beneath the ground, the wounds are deeper, and a new invasion is beginning.
When the floodwaters rolled in and kept coming, that left the door wide open for something else to move in. Catfish.
The Hudson and East Rivers are home to some seriously tough catfish species, like the brown bullhead and the channel catfish.
Now, the subways would be a full-on aquarium, at least for catfish. I mean, the water's still really gross. It's not a great place for most animals, but catfish do just fine in polluted water, so they're thriving.
They've got great eyesight for murky water, and those whisker-like barbells around their mouths are basically like built-in sensors to help them find their way to food in the dark.
Here's the problem. Catfish love to burrow. They dig into mud or soft banks to hide out or lay their eggs. And all that digging is eating away at what little is left of the tunnel walls.
The tunnels are already crumbling, and now catfish burrow into cracks and crevices, speeding the rate of decay. What will happen to the city above when the world below rots away and crumbles? Despite the destruction, perhaps the most iconic symbol of New York still stands, the Empire State Building.
Of all the city's legends, it's no surprise the Empire State Building is the last to hold its ground.
Its foundation digs 55 feet deep into Manhattan's bedrock. It was absolutely built to last.
The decay has been spreading under city streets for 250 years. And finally, the ground under part of the Empire State Building begins to crumble.
Flooded tunnels nearby, slowly eating away at the soil, have turned the earth beneath it into Swiss cheese. The northwest corner, near the old Herald Square, which was once home to 8 subway lines, starts to give way.
The mighty tower falls, crumbling into the void below, and a once signature feature of New York's skyline disappears.
One of humanity's greatest achievements below ground, the New York City subway, just brought down one of humanity's greatest achievements above ground.